changes right now is very severe and it's very dynamic. The question now is how bad is the recession will be, right? And what's impact to you as a business, as a financial institution, as a large corporate? Previously, we address our customers. I think right now, things are very different. I think a big basket of them could become your debtors because they will face a number of situations. They will got no income or they actually got retrenched. So therefore, the questions to address at the current situation is that, think about it, will your customer pay? Let's investigate the methods that we all know, right? I'll call it the current methods or the current collection process. You may have a collection systems, or that particular system can be quite manual, can be just Excel, right? We've seen that people are operating their whole collections based on Excel previously. So now you have collected all this database and they'll look at the different cases. They're trying to segment them manually or even come up with a segmented list. They'll first go through the debt collector, right? The debt collector will call, with SMS, with email, and will jot down the activities at the end of the day as a report. If you really can't get the collections executed at this point, you'll pass on to the so-called field collectors. And as we are operating in this region, we know that a lot of field collectors are actually criminals, right? So that's to send out the ones that we put most tattoo to go out and try to do collections. And of course, you need to get them to report the results. And then you're trying to go back in again for the whole process to restart to look at who do you should collect and so forth. So that's the current way of doing things. Now, question to you, will this still working? If let's say the amount of cases are 5 times, 10 times more than previously, do you need to increase your field collectors and debt collector by 5, 10 times? And will this have an impact to the final collections if you are using the old methods? The answer may be no, right? So therefore, the enhanced approach that we have advocated is to leverage on the ABB, as I simply put it, AI, Big Data Analytics, and Behavioral Science, to cater for 3 main basket of ideas. So from predict standpoint, we are able to use dynamic data and to be able to have early warnings. So what the enhanced approach will also include to us, I think one of the killer apps, right, that we incorporate behavioral science into the collection, and therefore you can maximize your throughput, which means the money that you're going to collect. Ultimately, the end results that we want to achieve is maximize your collections and of course minimize your non-performing loan. From the old method standpoint, this is again no stranger to a lot of you. They are all using rule-based, right? The rules can be, or if you start to default today, I'll actually send you a SMS. 30 days later, I'll ask people to call you. 60 days later, I'll send a few collectors to collect the money. This is all the rules that you set, and it's all based on static data. Basically, the data that you collected from your application's time, right? So now, if you proceed further, the only quote-unquote dynamic data that you collect is whether they have payment in for the period, let's say every month, right? So this is what? This is to us a lagging indicator. You are acting using lagging indicator, and therefore there's no edge versus other lenders, right? Other people that also need to collect from the same people. So what do we propose? We propose a scoring model, and this scoring model would have both static, the data that we still need from the debtors, from the customers, and we also enhance it by 2 types of data, all public data, right? One is digital footprint, and also other public data like on the news and others, right? So combining digital footprint and all this public data will give you more edge. And we also infer data from repayment behavior and other data, including your demographics data, so that then we can now predict or even prescribe, right, the type of interactions we have with you. So right now, we are not just looking at to have the collection propensity score or the priority score as the ability to repay, but also the willingness to repay. And that's right now at this moment is very important. The first one is that you need to identify the right targets from the start, whether it's an early warning, whether you should start doing something and so forth. That's the first step. How precisely you can do that? You use dynamic models and you use dynamic data. Secondly is that you then segment it for different approaches, right? Is this segment you need to send with this quote-unquote personalized message? And now you are now routing to the next phase, which is to assign, right? The assignment. Before you assign to your desk collector and also your field collectors, you may want to have some process to automate your collections and to start to send a effective reminder. The word effective is very important, right? You just don't send a cookie cutter message that, hey, you owe me 1,000 and please pay 1,000 by the end of the month. This won't work, right? Assuming you have this message right now in front of you and you're busy, you'll just ignore this message. So the next step is really the process. Basically, it encompasses automation process that couple automation and personalization so that we have the best effort out to reduce the workload for your desk collector, right? The next thing is basically on the debtor side, how they react. For example, you have to capture the promise to pay and track the promise to pay, right? And then in the worst situation, if they really can't pay, what information that we should collect so that we can have mediation with this person. Basically, again, we leverage on the ABB, right? The AI, big data analytics, and behavioral science across the entire process. In a broader process, this is how the entire workflow looks like, right? Your customers, you can call them borrowers, apply loans, you score, right? And then at the point of they accept your loan, right? The process of this ongoing monitoring of borrower behaviors or debtors' behavior will start. We'll do the identifications and segmentation even from that stage, right, to categorize your risk scores. And that will actually have a whole impact into the collection strategy. Which approach do you take? Do you send reminder? And if let's say through early warning, you know that somebody is maybe have issues to pay, you want to verify that. And as I know, a lot of companies would have the ability to ask for more information at the point of you extend the loan. For example, can you send me your latest salary slips? So if you have doubts whether they are still having a job, so you can do that, right? So the approach, which channel is that through the desk collector or is just automated personalized, right? And what time? And next two will be very important, right? So it's about how do you optimize your strategy. And it's not just about predicting the default behavior. Now you need to deploy what we call as nudge efforts, especially before your actual collections effort start on day zero, right? So how do you start to nudge them? And finally is that the goal is really to improve the entire collections efficiency. Previously, you can reach out to 100 people, combining the desk and the field collectors. Is that enough? Maybe not. Right now, maybe the people that you need to go through this collection process is 10 times more, right? So how do you have the same amount of people to work and continue to get better in terms of the collection efficiency is something that we're going to talk about. This is the methods that we use, but not purely from ability to pay standpoint. The segmentations also account for willingness to pay with a lot of behavioral analytics. So behavioral science. So what is behavioral science? Basically, behavioral science, again, is a science subject that we seek to understand human decision making. Should we pay or not pay? Should we pay a little? Should we pay just the interest, right? And also to identify the predictable patterns in human behavior. So when you segment your debtors or your customers based on behavior, you have a different approach, right? This is just a simple 4-way segmentations in our implementation for easy explanation, right? In our implementations, there's definitely much more segments that we are trying to do. Basically, number one, if they are able to pay and they are willing to pay, just remind them and get them easier to pay. For example, easier to arrange gyro and all these options, right? If you need to run down to the branch and queue up for half an hour to pay, right now, even with our software, I would strongly suggest that you actually enable all these easy paying options so that your customers won't feel very tedious to pay your the debts. The other one is they have the ability to pay, but right now, for some reasons, they may not want to pay yet, or they want to pay others first. So how can you get this group to pay, right? So that's important. The next one is that they are not able to pay, especially right now, right? This is a COVID situation, right? But they are willing to pay, right? So how can you counter offer, right? You need to counter offer, for example, the payment holidays and restructured loans, right? So when I talk about mediation, the able to pay and unwilling to pay, and the moderate group of willing to pay but unable to pay are the ones that you need to use mediation to solve that problem, right? To increase the overall collections. And last, and I think is the worst, is that they are unable to pay and unwilling to pay. So that one, I think, will need more methods. So now we can embed behavioral science in the whole aspect. To us, that's the last mile. As I talk about it, we incorporate behavioral science aspect into analytics, and we deploy gamifications. And next is the social proof or other behavioral science techniques. I'll give you one example. This example is actually come from the UK, right? HMRC, which is the tax department for the UK. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, right? They have problem in collecting the tax. They get a behavioral scientist in. The behavioral scientist just advise to add one more sentence in the tax letter that's sent to everyone. Guess what? They have increased 6% of the tax that being able to collect on time and with the right amount. So the increase is from 57 to 86. What's that magical line? Basically, is this one, right? They actually do social norm, right? To add one more data point into the whole letter, assuming they are in the good location, yeah. So they are in a good location, more than 60%. So and they don't mention your neighborhood. They mention your neighborhood name. For example, let's say in Jakarta, it's at Jakarta Barat, right? So people in Jakarta Barat, 80% of them are paying out, and you don't want to fail out of norm, and therefore you pay out. So by adding one more sentence, you can actually make significant changes.